Hello, and welcome back to Inside Value with me, Siam Dengi. It's great to have you here. Today's episode marks the last bit of our dive into the framework, with the final sector of the value mapping framework being value networks and ecosystems. This sector is the fourth sector in the framework overall, and is also the second of the two sectors that fall into the external value mapping half of the framework. As always, if you've listened or watched previous episodes, you will already have downloaded a copy of the framework from the show notes. But in case you haven't, I've also included it to this episode's show notes as well. Value networks and ecosystems is my ultimate favorite sector in the entire framework. Here, your gaze shifts towards your business or nonprofit's value chain, with the objective of looking into that value chain with a specific focus on value creation and protection. Value networks and ecosystems as a concept and as a part of the framework really puts the innovation in value innovation, and I'll explain more on what I mean by that. In developing this sector, I wanted to account for two major things. The first, the same way that goods, services, interactions, partnerships, and the like can move around and be exchanged within the value chain that an enterprise occupies, so too can value itself, the quality, and by extension, value creation and value opportunities be moved about and exchanged within the value chain. The second, those value chain interactions and partnerships that I just mentioned, they themselves can be used to create value. We already saw this from niche value analysis, but here, the entire state of the value chain itself can be looked at from a value creation perspective, with all of its interconnecting parts, and from it, value can be leveraged. So what do I mean by all of that? And what even is value networks and ecosystems? Firstly, it's actually two terms or concepts brought into one for ease of use within the framework: the concept value network and the concept value ecosystem. A value network is basically the network of parties that are connected to each other via value and value creation. For example, perhaps you and a specific supplier are in partnership wherein they supply you with biodegradable packaging at a decent price. And then you and a delivery company are in an arrangement wherein they package and deliver your goods in recyclable boxes and using solar scooters that allow them to deliver faster than average. That allows you to create value for your customers who are looking to be eco-conscious and have a great experience without paying out of their noses for it. You, that packaging supplier, and the delivery company are in a value network with each other. You are connected via the value you end up delivering to your client. As you can see, value networks tend to be relatively small, with only a couple of parties in it. And while everyone is connected via at least one party, not everyone in the value network is connected to everyone else. It's important also to remember that if it should so happen that one of these parties fall through on their part of the value delivery, the value you deliver is also impacted. A value ecosystem, by comparison, is basically a whole bunch of value networks that are connected to each other at some points. The true definition is actually an expanded matrix of parties connected via value and value creation, but it helps to see it as a bunch of connected value networks. It's basically the value chain, but the connection points are not exchanges of goods and services and etc., but the exchange of value and value creation. Again, not every party in a value ecosystem is necessarily connected directly to each other, but they are connected to each other through each other in the system. Another thing about the nature of the value ecosystem is that all of its parties will at some point eventually cross paths or even connect through value creation. Remember this is very important. If you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, the diagrams in the episode show notes on the podcasting platform you're listening in on will go a long way in helping you to visualize all of this. So, value networks and ecosystems, both within value innovation itself and when you're applying the framework, is scrutinizing the value chain that your business or nonprofit organization occupies from a value creation perspective at the level of the value ecosystem and at the level of the value network. You're asking questions like, how do we create and use the connections that we have in our value networks and ecosystems to create or bolster value? And how can we leverage the interactions between us and the players in the enterprise environment or value chain to maximize our value? The objective of these questions is where the magic and the innovation really lies. The objective is to leverage those interactions that I described in value networks and ecosystems. Yes, but the true objective is to create, mediate, and facilitate connections and engagements in the value networks and ecosystems that you occupy so that they happen through you. And that might look like connecting parties that ordinarily would not connect and create value through you, or speeding up interactions through you or your interactions or your actions, etc. That mediation and facilitation becomes the additional value that you can offer. The eventual aim of work in the sector is to have it such that nobody can do anything connected with what you do in the ecosystem without involving you, which I have defined as becoming the ecosystem facilitator. As you can imagine, this can have incredible impacts on your competitive advantage and your influence on the market that you operate in itself. These are pretty big concepts with very big implications. So it might be a little bit challenging to make this all practical and accessible. So let's have a case study. In fact, let's use the same agency and scenario from last week's case study. We've got a large and historically renowned SME support agency, which we'll call Agency Alpha or just Alpha, that is finding itself rendered obsolete by parties within its operational environment. These parties include smaller SME support agencies, corporate companies with SME development programs, banks with SME development programs, and similar organizations with a specific focus on helping SMEs grow. The nature of Alpha's work makes it impossible not to engage all of those parties. They and all the parties that I mentioned are in the same niche and value chain, and Alpha is the largest, so they'll all cross paths. Alpha at this point needs a way to recreate value and recapture lost ground while not completely alienating themselves from the parties in the environment. So they decide they'll try mapping their value opportunities using the value networks and ecosystem sector in the framework. They do a little look-see and they note that the historical role that they've played in the environment and the value chain means that customers in the environment trust them more, which gives them an advantage. Alpha also notices that the value chain is such that all the parties within it, including competitors, have to engage with each other because these competitors serve customers in very similar ways, in similar spaces, and because of the partnerships that they sometimes set up to be able to serve the customers. But in particular, with Alpha itself, because of its status and prestige as the largest agency in the environment or the value chain. This presents an incredible opportunity to Alpha, which is the opportunity to set itself up as the ecosystem facilitator for the value chain. To do this, Alpha should ask questions like, what is the current state of the value ecosystem? Who is connected to whom? And what is the value that they create from those connections? What is our size and importance in the current ecosystem? What are our existing value networks? Are they maximizing our value creation? Who is the leader or the closest to being the ecosystem facilitator? What factors are important or big ticket factors for becoming an ecosystem facilitator in this ecosystem? And are there any collaborations between the competitors that put them closer to becoming an ecosystem facilitator? With answers to all of these questions, Alpha has a better understanding of the value creation dynamics in the value networks and ecosystems that they are party to, and is then in a better position to redevelop their value offering or create a value strategy that improves their status in the value chain. With the end of that case study, We've gone through what you need to know about value networks and ecosystems, both as a concept and as a sector within the value mapping framework. And we have concluded with the value mapping framework as a whole. And that does it for this episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Inside Value on your preferred podcast platform. Be sure to follow Vive Consulting on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, and visit our website on vive.co.za. That is VIVRE.co.za for more insights on value creation, value innovation, and value strategy. This has been Inside Value with me, Siam Dingi. See you in the next one.